Hello, this is Harwin from SU Wolf. Today we'll be talking about social currency. Social currency is basically something that in normal life there's a set currency or social value that we put, and the more we value someone, or there's a social exchange that is not visible in the naked eyes, but it is kind of existing. So I'll just give you an example. If someone comes to your door and maybe asks you for a glass of water, it is something that you might give them. But if they also ask you for maybe keys to your house, that will be something that you might not give them. And that is something maybe asking too much. So, whenever your interaction with a stranger or your friend or maybe someone who's a subscriber to your blog, or like maybe the Instagram account, a follower, or maybe a mutual connection, a coworker. So there's a set amount of social currency that each one has. If you help someone in something, the social currency increases, and maybe if you take help from someone, sometimes the social currency decreases. In the sense that you some owe someone a favor, and they owe you a favor, and there's some limit to what you can ask someone to do. You can ask them maybe for a glass of water, maybe you can ask them for a thing, maybe you can ask them to borrow their car, but there's a limit to what you can ask someone of them. And it's important to recognize, because a lot of times people don't recognize this, and those kind of things lead to uh, bad outcomes in the relationships. So to give you an example, so if you watch the movie The Godfather, in which what that person basically does, will not be going into the crime aspect, but what the person does is throughout the movie he gives someone favors. He does not take it from them, but throughout the his life, what he does is he gives people the favors, and in return other people owe him something, and he becomes in a sense a godfather. So what he does is throughout his life, he what I've heard about this is he helps everyone. So if it's a small thing or a big thing, he helps them out, and he does not ask much for in return. So as his goes on a long time, that social capital builds up. He a lot of people a lot of people owe him favors. So to the point that he becomes the kind of that person in the movie The Godfather. So how it applies here is you should be helping people out, but just because you're helping someone out does not necessarily mean you have to get rid of that favor. Or you should also recognize that when you do someone a favor, they have a they have something in their mind. They want to repay you back. So if someone wants to, maybe you should let them repay you back, so that they maybe don't feel guilty about it. A lot of good times what happens is, with good people, you do them something a favor, and they cannot forget it until they repay it back. So sometimes you have to let people do that, so that they feel better. Or maybe if you ask for a favor, make sure that sometimes you've added enough value to that person before. And if you ask for a one favor, don't again ask for the same favor that person again. If you ask it more than the times, that your social capital runs out, so you might not be able to build the relationship back, or you might have lost that kind of social value. So it kind of sounds very manipulative, but what I'm telling you about is that there's a limited amount of favors you can ask people, and it kind of runs out according to this. I do not make the rules. It is kind of they're already there in my society. It sounds a bit crude, but It is what it is. As marketers, we should learn to recognize what is instead of how things should be. So those are things. There's an intrinsic capital here, and the other thing is, if you are maybe a customer, so there's a limited amount of things you can ask as a customer. Maybe if you go to a restaurant or a hotel, there's certain things they'll oblige you, but at a certain point, you might be a nuisance to them. So you should also learn to recognize this, where you should be doing, where you should not be doing. If you go to fancy five-star restaurant, yeah, there is a lot of things that you can ask of the staff. I want this, I want that, and those things. But if you just go into a small hotel or a small restaurant, if you behave in a way how you behave in a five star and maybe ask for too much from them, they might view you as a nuisance, and it's possible you might not be welcome again to that place. So this kind of things can happen a lot in your life if you don't recognize this. So that's all. Learn to recognize this. It's there in your society. There, every situation it happens a lot. There's a built-in social currency everyone has, and try not to overuse it. And if you're giving someone something, don't give it with the expectation that you may be building the social currency. If you're giving, just give it because you're a that's the right thing to do. You should not be doing because of that. But other than that, recognize it is there in people's mind, so that you become a better marketer in knowing what exactly is going on, other than just thinking up or reading the theories. So that's all for today. This is Harwin from SEO signing out.